1909 was an important year not only to art but to the entire world. In a period following the Industrial Revolution, the world saw a rapidly expanding landscape full of new technology and ideas. With these furthering developments, a series of events would trigger a moment in history that changed the world forever. Some of the great advancements this year took place in science, and some noteworthy feats include the invention of synthetic rubber, the concept of pH is developed, and a Norwegian journalist uses a shortwave radio, creating the first ever radio broadcast. With all the advancements in technology, however, vast amount of the world was still dominated by empires such as the German, Russian, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman empires. All these empires sought more and more control of the world by the annexation of smaller and weaker countries, robbing them of their sovereignty. Italy at this time was far back in its development of a modern nation, and an Italian artist and poet by the name of Filippo Marinetti despised his country's place in the modern era. He saw Italy as a representation of the old world and sought to change his nation to one that stood toe-to-toe with the other superpowers. He believed Italy should not only embrace the changes of the modern world, but also wished to see the destruction of museums and libraries. In 1909, Marinetti wrote the Futurist Manifesto, igniting the Futurism movement era in art. Futurism violently rejected traditional forms so as to celebrate and incorporate into art the energy and dynamism of modern technology. In the manifesto, Marinetti outlined the concepts on which the movement would be built. This included rejection of the past and adulation of war as a necessary means. There was also a theme that expressed the desire of man to be merged with modern technology. Here we have some work from one of the movement's early artists, Umberto Boccioni, entitled Riot in the Gallery. Although not in the traditional style, the theme of violence and the movement is very much futurism. Along with demolishing traditional styles, the futurists saw value in the aggression and violence of war. They felt that Italy needed to advance on the world stage. Futurists saw war as purifying and the only cure for the world. These nationalist ideas spread through art because futurism was a vehicle for political propaganda. Tensions were already high in that region of the world with the ever-expanding grip of the empires. Then, in 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo, leading the Austrian Empire to declare war on Serbia. This war quickly drew all of the world's superpowers into conflict known as the First World War, the war to end all wars. During the war, futurism continued to thrive. It had many sources of violence, militarism, and action to be inspired from. Here we see a piece from artist Gino Severini. See how it depicts the motion taking place in the photo? It is a representation of aggression and conflict and an accurate depiction of the modern world. Here we see another piece from Boccioni. As with the previous piece, we see the movement represented as shown in the photo along with the war theme. Although impactful to the world and art, the Futurism movement was not long-lived. It died essentially at the end of the war. Artists and society were fatigued of the violence and gritty depictions as they were of news from the front lines. Futurism is thought to have inspired art such as Art Deco architecture. Here we see an example. Although not a direct inspiration, we do see the celebration of technology and human triumph in the modern world. The difference here, however, is that instead of a greedy and violent depiction, we see the affection of humanity that is represented as almost godlike. Interesting enough, themes of the Futurism movement can be seen in subcultural art such as the cyberpunk genre. Here we see a photo of modern Tokyo, Japan. On the right, a cyberpunk rendition of a semi-future city. Notice the art is in motion. There is also a gritty harshness to it. This is futurism influence for sure. Lastly, we see the futurism yet again in cyberpunk art. The fresh scrapes and scars on her face depicts the violence of reality. Much like Boccioni's sculpture to the right, we see a merger of technology with life as if they were naturally existent upon each other. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy my presentation of how the events in 1909 led to an artistic movement that also influenced a war that changed the world forever. It is amazing to see how the power of ideas and their expression in art and impact on the world and future art. Thank you and have a good night.